That was amazing. How many of us know that we're a Mona Lisa? Really? I mean, we say that in our teaching, I know I am divine. Do we really believe it? Sometimes maybe, right? I mean, I know I do. I sort of float in and out, in and out. So in Quantum Living this week, last week we were looking at how we felt like the world was against us. And what we're looking at this week is how we are against ourselves. Anybody in here relate to that? I remember when I came to the realization that I was my own worst enemy. Anybody in here ever have that realization? I'm my own worst enemy. And my little brain went, pshoo. How do we navigate that critical voice? How do we navigate that voice that just says things so automatically that sometimes we don't even really hear them anymore? They're just running all the time. When we think of how our belief systems operate, when we think about a computer system, there's the part that we see, that we actually interact with, but there's a whole lot more going on in the background. Programs running, things happening, and we get an error message down in there, and it just sort of proliferates through the whole interface that you're interacting with. And that's what happens within us. We get these tapes, these stories, these narratives, these beliefs that are operating within us. And what happens is we really treat ourselves very, very, very badly. The things we say to ourselves, we would never say to someone else. What I often say to people is, would you talk that way to a 5-year-old? Whatever you tell yourself, would you ever say that to a 5-year-old? And the answer is always, oh, no. But yet we talk to ourselves that way all the time. This is who we truly are. This is what we believe in Unity, that we are the divine expression. We are this individualized divinity in time and in space, that we are unique and we are eternal. It's like this weird paradox that our brains really can't handle, that we're actually moving around in time and in space, and yet we are timeless. And what happens is this is all too often who we think we are. We think we're broken. We think there's something wrong with us. We think we're not enough. We think we're unworthy. And those narratives are so hard to undo. So I talked last week about how we take those parts of ourselves that feel like that, and we create strategies and coping mechanisms, and we sort of cover up the gaping wounds that we have around ourselves. And this is Debbie Ford's analogy. We sort of turn them into little outlets, little electrical sockets, right? And all it takes is for something to happen in our world, and we get plugged in. And all that protection and all the strategizing and all the ways we're trying to keep ourselves safe don't mean a thing. And our system gets completely hijacked. And what we do is we are projecting out into the world all the things that we don't want to be in here because it's too painful. And when we project it out there in the world, it just means that we see it everywhere. What that does, though, is it reinforces the narrative. It reinforces whatever that belief is that you have about yourself. I'm invisible. You're projecting that out into the world. Nobody sees me. And guess what will happen? You're only going to pay attention to the people who don't see you. And you will dismiss and discount and not give a lot of time and energy to the people who do. We all do this, right? You say, oh, but that person said that you did a really great job. Yeah. But this person said it wasn't very good. We don't pay attention to the things that are actually supporting our greatest and highest good. We're paying attention to the things that fit into the narrative that we believe about ourselves. And how we know that we are caught in this disowning of our true self, of parts of ourselves, is that we find ourselves stepping into criticism and judgment and blame and anger, annoyance. Sometimes we withdraw. Sometimes we just feel super, 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 super sensitive. And then sometimes we're just trying to justify it all, justify how we feel. Now, we do this, last week we were talking about how the world is against us. We do this when we feel like the world is against us. But the really heartbreaking thing is we do this to ourselves too. We withdraw from ourselves. We criticize ourselves. We judge ourselves. We get angry at ourselves. We are annoyed with ourselves. Can I get an amen? Am I alone in this? I don't think so. So we're caught up in reacting rather than responding, and I've talked about how we can understand these as beach balls, right? We're trying to keep down the parts of ourselves we don't like, the jagged edges of our understanding. I'm too much, I'm not enough, whatever it is, and we're trying to hide them. And the thing is, everybody around us can see them just fine because the water's clear, but we're expending a ton of energy trying to hide things, and then they just kind of burst out of the water at unexpected moments. I don't know what happened there. I just kind of lost it. What we talk about in quantum living is that we all have fundamental needs. And when we step into reactivity, when we step into this place, this space, where we think the world is against us or we begin to judge ourselves, is because those fundamental needs are somehow not being met. So the fundamental needs are safety and security, love and connection, a sense of worthiness, a sense of abundance, and empowerment. Those areas, when we don't feel as if those needs are being met, we start living and breathing and living from who we are not, rather than who we actually are. So, this is what we're trying to do. I went to someone's house and they have a little baby, and all the sockets were covered up with the little baby plugs, the baby protectors. This is what we're seeking to do for ourselves, to heal those parts of ourselves that think that there's something wrong with us. And what if we could meet our own needs? Look at those needs again. Safety and security. How often do we think it's somebody else's responsibility to keep us safe and secure? Love and connection. How often do we think it's somebody else's responsibility to tell and show us that we are loved? How often do we think that other people need to tell us that we are worthy? How often do we think that other people need to be the source of our abundance? And how often do we give up our power? How often do we say and believe that other people, other systems are more powerful than we are? We're not taking care of our own needs in those moments. We are abdicating the capacity that we have to actually show up for ourselves, and I will talk about this as well, to also show up for the world. So this is our vision and our mission and our core values, right? A world spiritually awakened and transformed through realizing our divine potential. Does that feel empowering? Does that feel as if there's a sense of capacity of what we can do? Our mission. Unity in Marin is a loving community dedicated to spiritual growth, inclusivity, and service. We honor and care for ourselves, each other, and the natural world. Does that sound like love and connection? Does that sound like a sense of worthiness? Can't show up in service if you don't think you actually have something to show up with. Our core values: connectivity, inclusivity, and authenticity. And why I am so thrilled with the core values that have emerged from this community, from our mission, our vision, is because all of them address those needs that we have. All of the things that arose within this community directly are applicable to those needs that allow us to live from the truth of who we are rather than from the wounded self. So there was a team, and I want to just give a big shout out to the core values team, because I think of all the teams, except maybe the Visioneers, they worked the hardest. Their job was to take the core values and define them. What do they actually mean in our community? And all that arose was linked directly to what the conversations had been over the weekend and over the past 6 months. So connectivity, living in an awareness of unity with all. How do we do that? We open to divine inspiration and actively engage with Spirit. We honor the divinity of all through loving service. We enjoy and appreciate having fun together. Right? Fun is important. So can you feel how these meet some of those needs? That sense of abundance. We're all in this together. That sense of empowerment, that sense of love and connection. Let's take a look at inclusivity. Cultivating a safe space to celebrate diversity and value the uniqueness of every person. We widen our lens to understand and honor the lived experiences of others. We are enriched and become more as we consciously question our assumptions. We cultivate a space of belonging for all before they come in the door. Whew. Can you see how this is meeting so many needs? Can you see how this meets for the sense of love, the sense of worthiness, the sense of safety and security? We are saying yes to meeting these needs for ourselves, but we're also saying yes to something bigger. Can you feel that? It's not just ours, it's something larger. Let's look at the last one, authenticity. Now, this one created a lot of conversation during the weekend, right? Because there were some people who said, well, you can authentically be a jerk. And they're right? People can authentically be a jerk. And people have used authenticity as a weapon. I'm going to tell you the truth as I know it. And then they lay into you, right? They lay into you with their understanding of all your faults, all the things that you did wrong. But I'm speaking from my authentic voice, and how many times have we heard somebody say, I have to speak my truth? Now, there is nothing wrong with speaking your truth. Let me be very clear. But we don't want to weaponize how we speak our truth. Can you feel that? So, a lot of time was spent on how we live into authenticity to directly address that issue that was coming up. So we share our voice, gifts, and talents with vulnerability and humility. We value honesty and take responsibility for our choices. We nurture trust by aligning our actions with our values. Can somebody be a jerk in that? It's a lot harder, right? We can always be jerks. All of us can be jerks. Anybody in here been a jerk? I've been a jerk, right? But what we're saying is that this is aspirational, that we are leaning into this to the best of our ability. And can you feel how this is about empowerment? Can you feel how this is about how we create true connection with ourselves and with each other and the larger container? I didn't see this. As we were working on all of these things, I did not see how they tied into these fundamental needs. But once I saw it, I realized that that's why this community is so powerful. That is why this community has the longevity that it has. That's why this community has the sustainability. Other spiritual communities are struggling right now, like really struggling coming out of COVID. I tell people how many are engaged and the kind of attendance we have and the kind of online engagement we have, and other ministers are just like shocked. Like, wow, how are you doing that? And I'm like, I'm not doing it. The community is doing it. And I really do believe it's because there is this understanding, unconsciously perhaps, that we are here to meet our own fundamental needs. But what happens when we open up and we're willing to share that with others? So I'm not responsible for you feeling worthy. But can I continually reflect back to you how worthy you are? I am not responsible for you feeling abundant, but can I stand and know abundance with you even if you're having problems seeing it? The big one, safety and security. The hardest one of the core values for the team to work on was inclusivity, because it is the leading edge of consciousness right now. So it's not something that anybody has really figured out. We are right there trying to figure out what does it mean to be truly inclusive. And I keep coming back to this safety and security, this love and connection, this sense of worthiness, this empowerment. Can you feel how inclusivity hits so many of these fundamental needs? Can we truly open ourselves up and allow our know that we are safe as we open up and create a container that is safe for those who wish to enter? And if we place our understanding on we are here to meet these needs for ourselves and to know that we can do that, but we are also here for collective healing. We are also here to know the truth for each other. We are also here to know and bring into manifestation those needs, those fundamental needs for the entire world. What would our world be like if everyone actually felt safe and secure? I mean, just breathe into that with me for a minute. Because I know there's not a person in this room who has not at some point in time felt unsafe, yes? What would this world be? And this is that vision. Through realizing our divine potential, we actually transform and awaken the world. And we actually make a difference in the world. Because let's be real, as I talked about last week, there are systemic injustices operating in this world that are designed to make people feel disempowered, that are designed to make people feel like they are less than, that are designed to say, you're not allowed to have connection. You are not allowed to have security. I believe that this is part of our inner work, but that it's more than just our inner work. That as we know that we can meet the needs ourselves for our own sense of safety and security, and it's not, safety and security isn't about closing down. Can you feel that with me? Safety and security is about opening up because there is nothing that can actually hurt us. It's not a protective energetic. It's an opening that we're being invited into. And as we say yes to that, then we really truly are healing ourselves and the larger world. Carl Jung says, through pride, we are ever deceiving ourselves. But deep down below the surface, a still small voice says to us, something is out of tune. How many people in here are aware of how they're out of tune? How many people in here are aware that the world is out of tune? They're the same. Let me be clear, they're the same. So if we can learn to trust and anchor ourselves in the divinity that we are, so that safety and security is as natural as breathing, so that our sense of empowerment, our sense of wholeness, our sense of worthiness is truly ours, not because of our race or our economic status or our age or our weight or anything, because of the innate truth of who each of us is. And can we extend that exact same space for everyone else? We have to stop drinking that contaminated water. We have to, vision, awaken to something more. And we get to do that together. Look around at each other. Just look around at each other. We're all in this together, right? And we're looking at you too on the live stream. So the thing we're being invited into in all of this, the foundation of all of this is compassion. 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 What's the foundation of everything? Compassion. We forget this, right? We forget this all the time. We get triggered, and the first thing that goes out the door is compassion. They're a jerk. I'm a jerk. Where's the compassion in that? There is none. So that's part of our practice. Our practice is to keep centering ourselves and to begin to identify. Quantum living literally says, identify the unmet need. Why are you in a place of reactivity? What is the need? Am I not feeling safe and secure? Am I not feeling a sense of self-worth? Am I not feeling love and connection? Am I not feeling abundant? Am I not feeling empowered? And sometimes it's all of them at once. Sometimes there are so many unmet needs that we feel like we're drowning. But that's why we have each other, so that we can come together and we can remind each other, so that we can do the inner work that is also committed to an outward shift. And I think that's different than what Unity has been promoting in the past. Unity has always been about my practical tools for my life. And I think it's selfish of us to be thinking that way. I know that our tools, our practices, are bigger than just my little life. I mean, I love my life, don't get me wrong, but there's more out there. So what happens if I'm actually willing to not just engage with myself and with the people who are right in front of me, who I love you all, but what if I'm also willing to engage with the people that I can't even see yet? The people who I don't actually know personally. Am I willing to step into that place to create safety and security for them? Am I willing to create a place where their unmet needs could be met? And am I willing to hold the line on it? Because how many in here have ever felt threatened? And how long does it take for you to trust that you're actually not threatened? So this is not a one and done. We have to keep creating that place of safety and security for ourselves and for others. We have to keep holding it, and people show up in it, and they lash out at us, and they don't trust us, and they don't believe us. And we have to not get disempowered by that. We have to stay anchored in the truth of the world, the vision that we are holding, awakened world out of all of our divine potential. And when I keep saying yes to that, then I'm truly creating connection. Can you feel that? And it's real connection. It's not surface connection. It's real connection. And it's only real connection that will meet the unmet need. So all of these are interconnected. Can you feel that as well? This is what we are being invited to step into to make peace with ourselves. We have to be willing to acknowledge and recognize what our need is in the moment. We don't need a story about it. We don't need to justify that we feel scared. We can just acknowledge, I am not safe and secure right now. What can I do? What do I know is possible in this moment to make me feel safe and secure? In the quantum living, we call that an authentic action. It's an action that is grounded in the truth of who we are. It's grounded in meeting the need that we have for ourselves. And in that process, we become impassioned. So let's take this into a time of meditation. Because that was a lot, yes? But can you see how powerful our core values and our mission and vision are? How they zero in on meeting those unmet needs. We are so amazing, you guys. So we're just going to breathe into whatever might have gotten stirred up. Breathe into that space, that place that perhaps all of a sudden became aware of how you talk to yourself. That maybe all of a sudden became aware of those needs not being met. And all the strategies and coping mechanisms that you might be trying to apply in your life to make those needs feel met. What if you just let them go for a moment? And just become present to the need. And beneath the need is the truth of our being, the radiant light that we truly are, the wholeness that we are, the grace that we are, the beauty that we are. And so I invite you right now to just open, listening into that divine wisdom. What aspect of the divine are you being invited to embody that would allow you to meet that need? What are you being invited to own about yourself? To stand more firmly in for yourself? Maybe it's clarity or love or compassion is always a good one. Maybe it's strength. Maybe it's open-heartedness. Maybe it's joy or beauty. So just take a few minutes as we rest here in the silence to allow the truth of your being to make itself known. And as you continue to listen into that space, that divine wisdom that you are, just bringing that quality forward, feeling it active in your life as you, feeling yourself inhabiting that capacity that is yours by birth. It is yours already. Own it, name it, claim it. And allow that sense that unmet need, just allow that feeling to be met by the truth of your being. And then hold all of this in compassion. Just wrap it in compassion. I want you to wrap each other in compassion. I want you to wrap this world in compassion for all those spaces of judgment and criticism, for all those unmet needs. And just affirming that right where we are more than enough. Let us say this affirmation together. I am whole and perfect just as I am. I am whole and perfect just as I am. I am enough. I am more than enough. I say yes to. I say yes. Let's just do that. I say yes. And so it is. Amen.